And welcome back, everybody, back here again on the Shield of Faith podcast. I'm Jesse Phipps. With me, as always.
I'm Garrett. Good to see y'all back.
Yeah, we once again have been stuck in this time loop, uh, and you'll probably see this. Hopefully, for the next few episodes, we're going to try and sit here and knock several of them out, so that we don't have these couple week gaps in between episodes again. So you're gonna think we're stuck in some kind of Twilight Zone. That's a pretty good rock song too.
Yeah, and I don't know. We could be stuck in a Twilight Zone. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, I can hear the music right now. Oh, so we talked about last time that we were on Christmas break. Not so much you, but it has given me an excuse to finally get some hunting done. We have talked about in the past how it was fall here and we're trying to find time to hunt, and it really worked out well. Me and one of our good buddies, we got the excuse to really just get after the ducks and hammer them all week long, pretty much. He had a cousin come in for Christmas, and that cousin had bought some. He's from Texas, and he had bought some out-of-state license, and he says, everybody knows the duck hunting in Texas sucks. So he come up here to Oklahoma, and we went and chased ducks all week. And we didn't do too bad. We had a little bit of sparseness here and there. We had one pond that we had hunted a few times in the years past, and the landowner there, he had kind of kicked everybody off because he'd had some folks that wasn't supposed to be out there get on there and just cause some trouble. So he kind of just shut everybody off of there. Well, we were able to convince him to get back on it. And so we kind of, hit them sparse here and there, come away with 2 or 3 birds apiece up until that a morning, and we had all right spots, but the spots we were in, the ducks had so many choices they could go where they wanted. So it was hard to decoy them in.
Right.
But we went to that pond there, and we were having to call shots, and we were having to really watch what we were shooting because it was getting pretty close to us limiting out, and we were all one bird short of having a 3-man limit that morning. And my waders had sprung a leak, and it was still cold that morning, and my feet were numb, and we said, hey, do we want to keep going? All we're going to get here is woodies, and we're already,
Which are wood ducks, for those who don't know.
Yeah, wood ducks. But we're already limiting out on these. The teal would quit flying at that point. We weren't getting a lot of big ducks in. And so we were like, do we really want to sit here and just watch flights of wood ducks go by and go by and go by and not be able to shoot any because, we're limited out on them. And finally I was like, let's sit a little bit longer, see if we can finish our limit off. And then we got 1 or 2 more birds, and I was like, okay, my feet are numb. Let's just go ahead and go. And but we walked out, and there was so much water in my boots of my waders that when I went to pull them off, the boots were literally suctioned to my feet, and I barely could get them off by myself. Once I got them off, I could wring my socks out and water pour out of them, and then I dumped my boots out, and I bet I dumped a pint of water out of each boot. It was a cold morning. Like, it wasn't really, really cold, but it was sitting about 31 degrees. And so that water was cold. And it was in them boots, and my feet were numb. And then the feeling started coming back to them after I got them out of them boots and got in the truck with the heater on. They started itching on the drive home. But we had a good time. I tell you, I sat there and shot for waders that night and couldn't quite pull the trigger. And so I just handed my phone over to the wife, and I said, I found these waders. It's about the best deal I can find. I'm having trouble pulling the trigger. If you think we can buy them, you just go ahead and you do what you need to do. And so she bought them. They're supposed to be on the way. I don't know, but we'll get another opportunity to use them before season's over. I had about enough of being soaked and freezing to death.
Right. And getting a 3-man limit of wood ducks is not an easy feat. So wood ducks are small and they're really fast.
Yep.
And generally you can't find them unless you're in flooded timber. So you've got obstacles to shoot around too.
Yep.
And what's really crazy and kind of correlates to modern times here, everybody says, well, warfare's changed so much. You look at the Russia-Ukraine war over there, and they have all these drones with bombs attached to them and things of that nature. And they're like, well, if they do that, there's no way you can fight against it. But I know that we've got here in the U.S., we've got several duck hunters that can hit wood ducks, and a wood duck's top speed is somewhere between 55 and 60 miles per hour through the air.
Yeah.
And if you look at the personal drones like they use over there in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, those types of personal drones also top out at about 55 to 60 miles per hour. So I think we may be able to hold our own with our duck hunting shotguns.
Yeah, and this one we've got sitting up here on the table, that's the one I was carrying. And one reason I didn't want to leave is, for those of you that don't know me, a few years ago I had LASIK eye surgery, so I had spent most of my life wearing glasses and contacts. And if you know anything, if you're an eye doctor or whatever, and you're listening, you know that looking through a lens changes your perception of distance and speed and things like that. And before this gun in my hands gained a reputation, and everybody that hunted with us in our group started calling it the rifle. It's not. It's a 12-gauge shotgun for any of the game ones listening. It's actually a shotgun. It's a Mossberg 500. It's an old gun. It was my grandpa Phipps's. Passed it down to me, went through my dad to me. My dad gave it to me when I was a teenager, and I was shooting Winchester blindsides was the shell I was using. I hope we don't get copyrighted for all that. But they pattern really well out of this gun.
We're not sponsored by them.
No, we're not. Well, there's no monetary. The only monetary that changes hands is me giving them money for their shells. But this gun was, I was shooting BBs when it got named the rifle, BB size shot, and we were folding birds up at 60 to 70 yards pretty easily. And it was the only gun shooting at the time. So
what's crazy is this shotgun doesn't even have that long of a barrel.
No, it's a short barrel. It's actually a turkey gun. It's ported on the end, so it's vented. And so it's not really designed for ducks, but boy, does it do it. But what I was getting at with the LASIKs and stuff is, since I've had that changed or fixed, I've had trouble getting back in the groove of shooting with my shotgun. And that day that we were limiting out down there on that pond was the first day that I've really felt like I was starting to catch up with the birds and be able to hit. And there were many birds that I was shooting at, and I was folding them up first shot that day. And I was like, well, I feel like I'm starting to get back in it. And any of you that are shotgunners, or you like shooting clays, or you like hunt birds or anything like that, you know how it feels to be out of the groove, and then how it feels to get back in the groove.
You bet, yeah.
But boy, it was a good day, a lot of fun. The next day, we tried to go in and get a shoot on a roost hunt, and we sat in the wrong dang spot. But that's how it is. That's why they call it hunting, not killing.
That's right.
So, but we got to get out and really enjoy God's creation and watch the sunrise come up. Yeah, it was cold, but you get that.
There's nothing like it.
It's nothing like it. You sitting in that water and you get to watch that fog come up off that water. The birds coming in, and when those birds, when they do like this little decoy right here, is this a spinning wing decoy? When they do like it's designed to look, they put those little landing gear down, put their feet down, and cup those wings, and you see them kind of putting them brakes on. There's not much prettier, and I really enjoy calling ducks. And watching them react to your calling, and
it's like you're having a conversation with God's creation.
Yeah, a wild animal, and you are manipulating and getting that wild animal to do different things, and that's, to me, that's the magic of it. Killing the duck eating the duck, that's a bonus. But to me, going out and enjoying the creation, enjoying the outdoors, watching these animals, interacting with them, studying them, knowing how they behave and what they like and don't like. And it changes not only from season to season, but day to day.
Right.
A lot of times it's what birds like one day, they're not going to like the next. But just those things right there, that's what really makes it worth it to me. And I feel like that's been that way for thousands of years.
Oh, yeah.
And to me, it's just further, like what we talked about last episode, it's further evidence of creation.
You bet.
In my mind. And that's something so last time we left off with
talking about the flood.
We were talking about the flood and talking about evidence and things like that. We kind of had to cut everything a little short. We were already over time. So that's something we wanted to get back into this time today is talking about our archaeological evidence we were finding to support the validity of the Bible, validity of Scripture. So you said you had some things you wanted to pick up on.
Yeah, I wanted to touch a little bit on the Dead Sea Scrolls. So what the Dead Sea Scrolls is they're historical artifacts that were found in caves near the northwest shore of the Dead Sea. And what they were is they were scrolls, so rolled up paper, papyrus. Mm-hmm. They were several different mediums, both hides and plant matter type papers that were rolled up and placed into clay pots that they found. Well, a lot of them were really hard to read because, some of them are solidified and everything else, and they're all rolled up into a scroll. They were able to decipher most of them, but really, in recent years, they've been able to uncover almost the entirety of the Dead Sea Scrolls, believe it or not, using an AI program.
Yeah.
And what they found in these Dead Sea Scrolls, just over time since they discovered them and as technology progressed, they have found copies, the earliest known copies of the book of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, Psalms, Daniel, and Isaiah. And the book of Isaiah in particular is the entire book of Isaiah.
Wow.
And what's really, really interesting about this is when you translate all that into English from the original, so the scrolls they found were either in Aramaic or Greek.
Right.
When you translate it to English, it is a 95% word-for-word match with the King James Version of the Bible.
So what you're telling me, there is still validity in studying these dead languages to understand what they mean.
Absolutely. And there's things that you're going to, just to be able to translate that, is worth its weight in gold because you are showing that there is physical evidence for very, very early. This is the oldest writings that we've found to date.
Right.
As far as
that support biblical scripture.
That support biblical scripture.
And I looked that up too, and they're saying that they range the dates of those scrolls, the age of them, from anywhere from 250 BC to 70 AD. So you're talking about there's a huge range that these things have been collected during.
Right.
And they're all being put in here. And
they had been collected together over the course of almost 500 years.
Yeah. And right up until the time of the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem by the Romans, which happened in about 70 AD.
Right.
So you're talking about right during this time. So right before Christ, let's say right before 250 years before Christ.
Right. All
the way up until, 30 to 40 years after Christ is what the range these things have been written and collected together in, which I think is pretty significant.
It is.
That the fact that these writings over this long, whoever this was, a family or a group of people or whatever, religious sect, whatever, was thinking that these documents were important enough chronologically that they're compiling them together for over 300 years.
Yeah, and what's even crazier is what they found inside those jars is what you find in today's modern book we call the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah, that was translated in the 1400s.
Exactly.
I mean, it's insane that, how in the world, I mean, that's one of those things you think about coincidences. At some point, stuff starts pointing too much in the same direction for it to be a coincidence.
Absolutely. And touching some more on some archaeological finds. So at the Red Sea, not the Dead Sea,
Yep.
they have found a narrow strip of underwater, they call it a land bridge that is underwater, where the Red Sea comes up and it plateaus almost like a roadway in between one side to the other. And get what they found when they went diving on this underwater land bridge.
I would bet you it was something to do with early equestrian activities.
It is. They found Egyptian chariot wheels that matched the same dynasty that was in power at the time of the parting of the Red Sea with Moses. And they've also found Egyptian armor from the same dynasty, as well as horse skeletons.
Yeah. So,
which supports the the miracle of parting of the Red Sea.
Parting of the Red Sea and the freedom of the Hebrew people from captivity in Egypt. Which, and there's tons more. That's something else we were looking up earlier. The Tel Dan Stela, which is an inscription mentioning the house of David. It's actually the first non-biblical account we have of King David.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. It's like a big, tall, golden-looking thing, isn't it?
I'm not entirely sure. I didn't find a picture of it, but they do say it dates to 9th century BC. So it's old. I mean, that's way on back
900 years before the birth of Jesus Christ.
Right, and to think that you're talking about this as given validity to this king, that all of Scripture points to Jesus being able to trace his paternal ancestry back to through Joseph, that line there, that's where he would come from. That's insane. You talk about the Dead Sea Scrolls, you talk about Isaiah. Isaiah prophesies that. And obviously this writing matches well enough with what we have today in English translation, but it's going back to over 250 years before Christ. So it's already being prophesied. I mean, is there any way you think that people, we're 2026 here now, if you were able to go back in the 1700s and ask George Washington if he would predict that our country would be where it is today, do you think he'd be able to do it?
Absolutely
not. Absolutely not.
Could you imagine showing that man an iPhone?
Oh, dude, he would lose his mind. He would open his mouth so hard that his false teeth would fall out.
What is this portal you're holding?
But but to think that we have something that matches so identically to the text we have available to us today,
95% word for word
match, and it's almost a complete book that's been stored in this jar. We know for
the book of Isaiah is complete.
Over 2,000 years that it's been in this jar. I say that it was found, before that, but you very easily say 1,500 years, so a really long time. And it could possibly be and I don't know how old the Isaiah scroll was in that jar, but it could be as old as 250 BC.
It's crazy.
It's insane that adds up. And then you talk about, you've got about 400 years before that, you have the Tel Dan Stela that is mentioning David, who was mentioned in Isaiah.
Right.
And so it's proving all of these things that are interconnecting. It's
very strong evidence.
Very strong evidence. So we have more. We got Hezekiah's tunnel that they found. That's actually mentioned in 2 Kings. And it talks about the King Hezekiah preparing for a siege. They found this Hezekiah's tunnel, and it dates back to the 8th century BC.
Is that the one that's theorized that's how they snuck the Ark of the Covenant out of the city of Jerusalem?
I'm not sure. I will look that up before next episode.
Sounds good.
I will have an answer for that.
So, expanding a little more on archaeological evidence. So there's a place that is in the Jordan Valley near the Dead Sea, and its modern name is Tal el Hammam, which I'm probably butchering that, but that's as close as I can get it. So it's a large Bronze Age city that they've excavated there, and they found some very odd things about this place. So they found a lot of melted pottery and ash layers inside this city that does not support the idea of just a citywide fire, because most of these cities were made out of sandstone. Sandstone doesn't burn very well.
Yeah, it's not like it's wood or something.
Yeah, exactly. And some of the other things they found around this place is these strange sulfur balls. Mm-hmm. So all throughout this ancient bronze city that they excavated with all these ash layers and melted pottery, they found all these balls of sulfur that are usually around 2 or 3 inches in diameter. And the outside layer of this sulfur ball has a burnt crust on it, as if these sulfur balls were on fire.
It takes a lot of heat.
And falling from the sky.
Yeah, it takes a lot of heat to do that.
It really does. And what's even crazier about these sulfur balls is once they crack them open and they tested the sulfur on the inside, it is 98% sulfur on the inside. And the only other place on this entire planet where you can find something that is 98% sulfur is the byproduct of refining oil and gas.
That's how we get that low sulfur diesel fuel.
That's exactly right. And so all the evidence there points towards that being either Sodom or Gomorrah, being destroyed with fire from the heavens.
So that makes a lot of sense. And it's kind of crazy. You're finding this Bronze Age city, and it has this refined sulfur. And the only way we can even get close to it is a refining technique that we really started using in about the 90s.
Yeah.
And this is the Bronze Age that we're talking about. This was excavated in.
So who knows? I mean, there is no natural explanation for these balls of sulfur being found in this ancient city they excavated.
We know they didn't have the technology to do it.
To even make sulfur like that.
They had a hard enough time with their metallurgicals trying to purify these metal substances.
Right, that's why it's called the Bronze Age. Everything was bronze because that was the hardest metal that they could come up with. And you read accounts or you do historical research, or what do we call it? Experimental archaeology. Yeah.
Take you a Bronze Age made method sword, or however you Bronze Age method made sword. That's how that should be worded. Sorry,
I'm tracking.
I got my.
They're tracking too.
Yeah, I got my words mixed.
Yeah.
Anyways,
go ahead.
But if you take that and you hit something with it, it's going to bend. It's not that great for a weapon, especially.
Could you imagine at the very tail end of the Bronze Age when there's other civilizations that's figured out iron? A guy with a bronze sword going up to a guy and clashing swords with an iron one. It's just bending like pop metal.
I would.
You could tell. You just know he's looking at a sword like.
Yeah, that would be a bad day in Little Chinatown.
I'm here to tell you.
Like I think I would be worried for sure.
Yeah. I'll tell you something else that's interesting about this Tal El Hammam place. Now, I don't just completely buy into this one, but it is extremely interesting as far as evidence pointing towards this being either Sodom or Gomorrah. So about 1.5 miles south of this Tal El Hammam place, there is a lone salt formation that is roughly 5 feet tall.
I have to give everybody that's watching fair warning. We can be somewhat of conspiracy theorists.
Maybe a little bit.
We like to go off on these tangents every once in a while, and they may be a little out there. We don't debate that one bit.
Yeah, we don't. But like I said, we're providing evidence here, and as we said in the last episode, there's absolutely no way that you can prove any of this. And it's all about providing evidence and what is the truth that you can gather from that evidence. The scientific method.
There you go. And at the very least, it's pretty cool to think about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I don't know.
What I'm referring to there, by the way, is Lot's wife. They were told not to turn back and look at the city as it was being destroyed by fire from the heavens. Mm-hmm. And Lot's wife turned back and looked and was turned into a pillar of salt.
Yep. So, I mean, that's pretty interesting. That's one of those things. If that's true, if that is really you find the sulfur in that area, and then you find that lone pillar of salt in that area. Well, that again is too many coincidences.
That's a lot of strong evidence.
Yeah, that's too many coincidences. That's true. And honestly, there's so much misinformation out there. The only way we would really know for sure is to go do it ourselves.
Absolutely.
But I think there's got to be some truth to it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I know that the actual sulfur balls, you can go and look at them yourself. There's a museum in somewhere in Florida, I think Tallahassee.
Yeah.
I think it's called Dinosaur Adventureland.
Yeah.
And if you go through their museum, they actually have some of these sulfur balls that were excavated from Tal El Hammam that you can look at. And they have some that are split open. They'll actually let you handle them too.
Yeah.
You can smell them. Guess what they smell like?
Sulfur.
That's right.
So another thing that I was looking up and I found that was interesting, is pretty old, is the Cyrus cylinder. For those of you that read any Old Testament stuff, you know that the Babylonian king Cyrus, he was the one that allowed the Jews to return home and start rebuilding Jerusalem, start rebuilding the city. That dates back to the 6th century BC. And it is one of the first accounts we have of Babylonian King Cyrus outside the Bible.
That's crazy. The Babylonians were wild.
Yeah, and they have a lot of written records and stuff as well.
They do.
And for this to be one of the only ones, or one of the earliest ones we have that accounts this king outside of Scripture, that's pretty remarkable.
It really is. And another king that's well documented both in the Bible and through other texts is King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon.
Yep.
So, side note, Saddam Hussein actually thought he was King Nebuchadnezzar reincarnate.
Yeah.
He actually, on their money when he was in power, it had his face and King Nebuchadnezzar's face. Yes. And I tell you, since we touched a little bit on the conspiracy theories there, so with Saddam Hussein considering himself King Nebuchadnezzar reincarnate, he attempted to completely rebuild the city-state of Babylon.
Yeah.
And you can still look at it today. It's got the crazy half human, half animal figures and everything else that is recreated. And what's really strange is one of these archaeological sites from ancient Babylon. It was a type of pyramid. They call it a ziggurat.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically a stair-step pyramid, kind of like you find in South America. And what's really strange is if you read some of the Babylonian text, it talks about there being a stargate there.
Yeah.
So, and I'm getting into the weeds here, and I will tell you that just right up front.
Conspiracy theory.
Yes, it is, 100%.
Did you bring those 10 hats around here?
I don't think I brought my 10 hats. Maybe we should have.
Yeah.
But anyways, where this place was, where the ziggurat was, where the supposed stargate was, within like the first 24 to 36 hours of the invasion of Iraq, the U.S. captured this archaeological site and built a base on top of it. And some people think that these weapons of mass destruction, now that, like I said, getting in the weeds here, this is all theory. They think that the weapons of mass destruction they're talking about weren't necessarily nuclear or biological weapons. They were thinking it was maybe portal technology.
I guess CIA and Dick Cheney are the only ones that let me know about that.
Yeah, probably. Anyways, interesting side note.
Yeah. So, again, squirrel chasers here, massive amounts of ADD. But if you've stuck with us this long, there's a reason you're listening to us. And
that means you find this weird stuff interesting too.
I'm not saying you don't mind that we go off on these things, but you at least find a way to push through. So, thanks for hanging with us. So some more modern things that are archaeological evidence. The Pilate Stone, which is 1st century A.D. It is an inscription that identifies Pontius Pilate as the prefect of Judea.
Right, yeah.
So there's proof there that at least these gospel accounts are true.
Right, yeah.
They have historical validity to them.
You bet. There's all sorts of evidence there.
Yeah. Then
I think we talked about that in a couple episodes ago.
I think we did a little bit, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
touched on
another one that's in that same time area is the Caiaphas of Ossuary, which is a bone box that bears the name of the high priest Caiaphas, who was the one who proceeded over Jesus' trial.
Right.
So for the Sanhedrin, and that's significant. I mean,
absolutely.
Again, it's proving that this New Testament, the most of the New Testament is going to be during this time. We know that Paul, who was Saul, who was a very prominent member of Jewish society,
right,
very educated member. He was a member of the Sanhedrin. All this so he knew Caiaphas. The Gospels mention Caiaphas. Acts mentions Caiaphas. All these things are playing in together, and so the fact that we have historical evidence that is confirming the existence of Pilate in the first century and Caiaphas in the first century, pretty significant.
It is.
And that's stuff that's outside the Bible. So there's more archaeological evidence we're finding that is in existence here that goes to show there. Then you had the Pool of Siloam.
Oh, yeah.
Which is mentioned in John. And that
you can still visit that today, can't you?
Yeah, well, it was excavated in the 2000s.
That's what I thought.
So you can, yeah. So that's pretty significant that we've got.
I don't know
there.
if I'd want to travel over there today and visit it, though.
No, I don't either.
I would go well armed and well armored.
Yeah. So, but that's pretty interesting. You have all these things. So we've talked about all this stuff that we've got leading up to it. That's really old stuff, which is pretty remarkable, especially concerning the Dead Sea Scrolls and what all that means and how that plays into our translations we have available to us today, how old they are, how long of a period of time they were collected through, the significance of that. And then you go all the way through all that time and you talk about all these first century archaeological finds we're having.
Right.
That are confirming the existence of these biblical characters.
And we're just scratching the surface here. We haven't told you every single archaeological find that's ever supported, or gave really strong evidence for the validity of the Bible.
For a couple of reasons. One, like I said earlier, there's a lot of these things, there's no way we would 100% know for certain unless we went and got boots on the ground and we put our hands on
looked at it ourselves.
That's the only way we would know 100% for certain. And I would love one day. I'd love to go to the Holy Land.
Oh yeah,
and just tour things. That would be really cool.
We're gonna have to do Crusade Part 3 if we want to go do that.
Yeah, it'd be a little hard to go through a lot of those places right now for us. But
yeah, and I would not fare well in a modern crusade because I'm an old soul, and I would definitely want a chainmail and a big Percheron horse.
Yeah, longsword or lance. I really like a lance.
It's called a lance.
Hello. Called a lance. Hello. For those of you that don't know us that well, we've talked about before. We do historical reenacting, and one of our favorite things to do is we do a lot of 19th century reenacting. But one of our favorite things to do is take these antiquated
weapons of antiquity.
Yeah, weapons, and use them and figure out how they were used, especially from horseback.
Yeah, so what we do is we go through all the drill manuals and everything that would teach new soldiers of the time period how to use their saber or sword,
mm-hmm.
and how to use a lance, which is basically a spear, and from the back of the horse. And we train ourselves and our horses exactly how they were trained during the 19th century there, the 1800s. And we put that on full display. We do programming for National Park Service and several different state historic agencies. And what we do is we set up a whole course, and we'll have depending on the time of year, we do either melons or pumpkins or squash of some sort, and we'll have it up on a target pole, and we'll ride our horses full speed at these targets, and we'll cut them in half or stab them through with a lance, and it's really neat stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I know pumpkins and watermelons weren't exactly the historical things they used for.
They weren't, but they give the crowd a nice wow.
Yeah, it's pretty nice effect, especially when you're running 25, 30 mile an hour at a watermelon with a lance, and you punch it through it, and the watermelon basically explodes.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's pretty cool. But yeah, so I would be right there with you. I'd be wanting to ride a big Percheron with the chainmail and plate armor.
Yeah, and it probably wouldn't fare too well against today's modern machinations of war.
I think some of those assault rifle rounds that these militaries use would go right through that.
Yeah, or as the French would say, machinations de la guerre.
Yeah.
Weapons of war, or machines of war.
Yeah. So, but all this stuff here we've been talking about, and we're about out of time for this episode. It's amazing how we can just rattle on, just keep going and talk and talk and talk and talk. But all this archaeological evidence, all these theories, and all this stuff we've talked about for close to 3 episodes now, it's amazing how many of them point in the same direction.
They really do. And the entire reason we're doing this is we're not trying to put anybody down or anybody's train of thought down. We're trying to give you strong evidence for the validity of the Bible that goes against whatever nearly everyone in the United States is taught in elementary school when they start going to school. Because a lot of times, of course, in our country we have freedom of religion, so they try not to push any particular one in core curriculum. And what that leads to is you get a completely secular teaching environment, and we're just maybe giving you a different perspective and showing how we think that the Bible, God's Word, is valid.
Is the way it is, yeah. And I would say that they don't necessarily push any one particular reason, but or religion or anything like that. But they're pretty big on teaching this one phrase, and I make fun of it every time I have to read it in front of my middle schoolers. Millions of years ago. And me and you, neither one believe it took that long. And I think we've established our stance pretty well over the last several episodes.
Yeah, I'm definitely a young Earth guy.
Yeah, I am too. And there's a lot of evidence that points to that, a lot of theories and things that I'm like, that makes sense to me.
Some people they follow the same rabbit trail we get down, and they end up in a different spot than we do. Some people follow this rabbit trail, and they decide that the Earth is actually flat.
Yeah.
And there's a giant dome around it.
Yeah, no, I don't go that far.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure about that one. I know God talks about the firmament, which is, like a layer around the Earth. I don't know if that's still a thing. My initial thoughts on that is it was pre-flood.
Yeah.
So basically, and there's a few things that points towards this, in my opinion. So if there's a firmament around the Earth pre-flood, so a layer of ice is what we're thinking.
Right.
What that's going to do is as the sunshine comes through and you've got water evaporation and everything else on the planet, and there's less gases that are able to escape from the Earth because of this encasing of ice or water of some sort around the Earth, that's going to raise your oxygen level way up.
Right.
So by raising your oxygen level way up, things are going to live longer and they're going to get bigger. Just like a regular little chameleon lizard you see, if you put him in an environment that was, double or more of the oxygen.
Put him in the rainforest.
Exactly. They're going to grow huge. Yep. And what's really interesting is if you look at your long neck dinosaurs, your Apatosaurus, Brachiosaurus, things of that nature. Brontosaurus used to be one of them. They've discovered that was just a young Apatosaurus.
Yeah.
That's neither here nor there. Chasing squirrels again. But anyways, on an Apatosaurus, it's this enormous animal, right? Like 3 stories tall. It's huge. And it has the same size nostrils as a horse.
Yeah, so very proportionately small.
Exactly. So how in the world can an animal that large provide itself with enough oxygen just through those tiny nostrils? The only explanation for that is a raised oxygen level.
Well, you see, the seculars would say that that's because elemental stuff was still evolving.
Yeah. On top of that, going down that same road there on oxygen. So there are things in today's modern medicine that points towards oxygen levels dealing with things like healing and things of that nature. They call it a hyperbaric chamber.
Well, I can tell you this. I don't know about the hyperbaric chamber. I'm not that far. But I can tell you from, actually going on 18 years. I just passed my 18-year anniversary in the fire service. And I can tell you from experience and medical training and things like that, that if someone's having a heart attack, the best thing you can do for them is put them on oxygen.
Right, yeah. So on the hyperbaric chamber thing I was talking about, so I don't remember exactly where it was or even really when it was. It's been some time ago, and I don't even remember the little girl's name. But there was a little girl who fell into a really, really small hole well.
Mm-hmm.
Like she barely fit in the pipe.
Yeah.
And they worked and worked and finally got this little girl out of there. She was okay, except for one of her legs. She's little bitty too. I mean, like under a year old. And anyways, when they got her out of there, her leg had turned completely black because it had
lost circulation.
Right, lost circulation. Well, they had an idea. They brought this little girl up out of there and they put her leg in a hyperbaric chamber, which doubles the I don't know the exact proportions, but anyways, it pumps more oxygen in there and adds more pressure. So it's more pressurized, just like it would be if there was an encasement of water around the earth.
Right.
And within like 2 days, her leg started turning pink, and 3 or 4 days later, her leg was almost completely back to normal and she could use it.
So what you're telling me is with this ice layer, the atmospheric pressure would go up from our now known 14.7 pounds per square inch.
That's correct.
And we would have higher oxygen content.
That's correct.
Which would mean that we could have smaller nostrils and the skin on animals would be thicker.
It would be, and it also would allow things to live longer.
So,
including humans.
Right. And so you also have bigger vegetation.
How old was Methuselah?
Over 900.
There you go.
So, I mean, there you go. It just kind of adds into everything, doesn't it? Once again, we're not trying to put anybody down, but at some point you have to go, these are too many coincidences pointing in the same direction.
Right.
This has to be something more. Speaking of something more, next time, which we're out of time here, so next time we're kind of talking about how we want to start getting into a little bit more of who Jesus is, which is something we talked about. We teased it just a few episodes ago that we were going to start getting into that. So we're going to start exploring that probably next time, talking about who Jesus is, and then go from there. So, but we're going to wrap things up. So if y'all enjoy what y'all are watching and seeing here, y'all like what y'all are hearing, encourage us any way you want, comment, ask us questions, anything like that. If you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and click the little blue bell so you get notifications when we have a new episode. Spotify, follow us, like, comment, share. Apple Podcasts, give us that 5-star review if you like what you hear.
But if you don't like what you hear, give us a 5-star review anyway.
Yeah. At least it'll help us a little bit. Sorry you don't like us, but no. So just like, comment, share, leave us a review, all these things. If you like what you're hearing or whatever, tell people about us. That's the best way to grow things, word of mouth. Obviously, what we know about Christianity today, that's how it spread.
Absolutely.
And it's probably the most evolutionary, and I say evolutionary, that's revolutionary religion to this date.
Yeah.
Across the world. So, but anyways, we appreciate y'all listening, and we will see y'all next time.
See y'all later.